So guys, are you ready to start this match reaction? Because I know I am. And I'm not gonna be making too many edits to this one. First of all, I will not be making too many kind of drastic changes. I'm just gonna be talking from my heart, because that's how football is talking, you know, with your heart on your hand. That's how you talk about it. And well, let's get started. So the very first thing that I want to talk about on this game, obviously, Barcelona losing 2-1 to Levante away. First thing that I want to talk about is the lineup. I want to talk about the lineup because there are some few things that just didn't make sense for me from the get-go. So let's start off right away with the debuts. Obviously, Jason Murillo, his very first game for Barcelona. And then we had other two youngsters in Juan Miranda and Chumi joining the back line. That was perfectly fine, you know. Sometimes you want to rotate, someone you want to try new stuff out. And in all honesty, yeah, you can do it, but it was not the right way that it was supposedly meant to be taken into account. Because you cannot be playing Jason Murillo alongside Chumi, a guy that has never played really as much in the Barcelona first team, and then Juan Miranda alongside him. It just doesn't really make much sense, you know? That's not the right way how you play a guy in its debut. You need to play him into already an oiled team where he knows to understand how to play, because this performance can then affect him on the next performance. He can have a low confidence, he can play even worse than what he played today. Murillo by not all means had the best game in the world, but he also didn't have the worst game. He actually covered some few good chances from Levante. He did his job, he defended. He was an okay player for me today. In the case of Miranda and in the case of Chumi, they were probably the worst part of this Barcelona team in this game. And that is not due to them. This is not because they don't have the potential to be at Barcelona. It's just because this is not the right situation to play them. I talked about in my match preview before where somebody like Miranda, if you want to get him to the side, he needs to know that he has support around him. He needs to know when to have a player that can cover him. If he makes a mistake, he needs to have somebody else that can cover up for that. And if Miranda made a mistake, who is next? It's Chumi. And what happens if he makes a mistake? Just Brasilison. That's not the way you should have done it. If Valverde wanted to try out Chumi, for instance, play someone like Jordi Alba to the left hand side. And if you want to play someone like Miranda, play Lenglet next to him. That's the best way I would have done it. That's why, in my eyes, the backline should have been, if it wasn't for Jordi Alba being left out, Miranda, then Lenglet, then Murillo, then somebody like Nelson Semedo. That for me would have been a correct way to play that defense today. Because you can not only affect what we're doing today defensively, but then what could affect in the next game. Because defensive solidity is something that has to be carried out through all competitions. It's something that can affect the team in the next game, even though the same players doesn't play. So that is something that for me had to be improved and had to be taken into account correctly from the get-go. Not just wait outside and try what everything comes to mind. Because Valverde is a smart guy. He is really a smart guy. Just don't try to be a super mastermind, because you are not. Just be yourself. Be Valverde. Valverde is a guy that likes to keep it cool. Valverde is a guy that we know he likes to be a little bit defensive. So he should have been understanding better. I just see that Valverde is making decisions right now based on what the media might be telling outside, what the fans, what the board. He needs to make his own decisions, because right now what I saw today, I don't believe he's Valverde in his own right mind making a decision, although the blame falls into him. Next up, the next thing that I want to talk about in this lineup was that we were a little bit more defensive than we needed to be. Like, we had CDMs, Busquets and Arturo Vidal, which in all sense sounds fine, right? But we were playing kind of like a very weird formation. We were playing a 4-1-3-2, or more actually kind of like a 4-1-1-2-2. That makes absolutely no sense. I don't know where you have heard something like that. Because we had Busquets really close to the defensive line, meaning that Valverde knows that before the game even started, knows that the defense was going to be a problem. That's why he played Busquets, because he knew that Chumi, Miranda, Jason Murillo and Nelson Semedo was not going to work as a good defensive back line. That's why he had to have Busquets. That's why he wanted to have Busquets, to cover up that space, to kind of like be in front of the defense and provide some kind of like stability to it. He knew that the problem was in the defense. So why would you ever start a lineup knowing that there's a problem in it, you know? You do not try to kind of like counteract problems with benefits in a lineup. You try to put the best lineup possible. Valverde knew that that defense was going to be wrong from the get-go, and he still started anyways. In the case of Arturo Vidal, he did exactly what I think most of us would have anticipated. Put Arturo Vidal there to cover up some ground and certainly work from that. In my eyes, something that could have worked much better in that sense was put Arturo Vidal but take Busquets out. Busquets in that role exactly works perfectly, but doesn't really work with what the game plan for this game was, which in honesty I don't know exactly what it was, because it wasn't clear from the get-go. We had kind of like the midfield to defense was one team, and then from the midfield for the forward was another different team. There was no coherence in what the game plan for Barcelona was from minute one, and that for me was also a very big problem. Someone like Sergio Roberto instead of Busquets would have been much better in my eyes in this one, because even though Valverde knew that there was a problem with the defensive backline from the get-go, someone like Busquets, someone like Sergio Roberto, could provide much more kind of like cover up ground, similar to what Arturo Vidal can do. You know, he's a little more mobile, a little more agile in that sense. He knows how to play also that role, because Sergio Roberto, if you don't remember, he was also a regista. He can be a guy that can also deliver the ball perfectly like someone like Busquets. He has been on that role before. That is how he started to be a player at Barcelona. That was his role at Barcelona B, and that was when he also played with Luis Enrique. He played in that midfield before being a right back. So I think that sometimes we tend to forget that Roberto is also that kind of player. For me, in that role, he would have been perfect. Really, really good. And then, talking about the forwards, don't even get me started, because the decisions actually of starting Malcolm, Dembélé, Coutinho and Aleña were fine. Those are very good old decisions from Valverde. But you can just not play them and expect it to work right from the get-go. Like, it doesn't really work like that. You need to have kind of like a reference number 9, somebody that can, not even number 9, just have a player that tells the opposition team when they need to defend. We've had Suarez in that for all our career throughout Barcelona. He has been that player. If we don't have Suarez, then somebody like Munir was in there, or even Messi as a false number 9. The defense knows that they need to cover up that player. They know they need to defend that main guy that's going to hurt them. And when you don't have that in a team, except if you are kind of like a Borussia Dortmund that just can have all your attackers free-flowing and that, which Barcelona don't, because they play like with 4 wingers. We just play with 2. That doesn't work correctly. I think that Valverde tried to have Arturo Vidal in that role, but the problem was that Arturo Vidal was also limited from what I mentioned before, trying to cover up the space in the midfield, because someone like Busquets is not as mobile as he once used to be. And that is why Arturo Vidal never was able to be that main number 9. We've known people, for instance, like Paulinho to be that before, and that is what Arturo Vidal, in my eyes, could also be for Barcelona in this game, but doesn't really work. If you remember back all the way to that Clásico in the Bernabeu, Paulinho was that main number 9. Paulinho wasn't, well, a striker. He wasn't a striker, but he was the guy that where Sergio Ramos and Varane knew exactly where to cover up space for. They knew when to attack, they knew when to close in on Paulinho. And Vidal could have worked that the very same thing for Barcelona in this game, but he just had other responsibilities and other duties. That is why I believe Sergio Roberto could have worked better in that midfield as well. And then the substitutions. The substitutions is another part where I am completely just baffled about how Valverde completely took this game. For me, the main blame has to be on Valverde for this game. You haven't even noticed by now. For me, the blame is on Valverde. Not because he's a bad manager or whatever, because he just made the wrong decision from the start. Because he knew, like I said, once again, I just hate it. Like, Valverde knew that the defense was going to go wrong from the get-go. That's why he put Lenglet in the second half. That's why he brought Sergio Roberto in the second half, because he knew that the defense was not good enough, and he still made those changes. You know, he still made those changes because the mistakes that he made, he's just reverting. You know, you are not exactly kind of changing up the game by bringing on Lenglet and Roberto. You are just fixing the mistakes that were from the start. That is not what substitutions are meant to be. That is something that just completely makes me crazy when managers do that, because you are fixing a team how it should be from the start. And just to finish off, I just gotta mention that sometimes games are lost before it even starts. And this is one very good case of that, because the decisions Valverde made were awful. And in all honesty, I just didn't see how Barcelona were able to change it up from this one. Denis Suarez was for me the man of the match per se for Barcelona, where in reality the man of the match for me was Boateng or Borja Mayoral. Any of those two players were the man of the match. But Denis Suarez was the best player for Barcelona today. And some of you may say, how can Barcelona let Denis Suarez go? I want Denis Suarez to leave so bad because he has a lot of talent, and right now at Barcelona we're not taking advantage of it. I want him to go to a good club like Arsenal. So go to Arsenal, play there under Unai Emery. You're gonna be amazing. Because in Barcelona, we don't deserve you because we treat you really, really bad. And you can see right there that today he still worked like any other Barcelona player would. He worked his ass off. He tried to help us, and he did at the end. So let him go. Let him go. He done good. Let's respect the guy. Let's respect the guy. That's the most important thing. Let's respect Denis Suarez. He could go. He should go. He should go to his career and progress somewhere else. Not here. Let him move on. Because it's just bad decision after bad decision after bad decision. And all of this comes from the planning. From the planning. Like if you say, Coutinho is not playing good. Well, he's not playing good because he was playing as a winger. And he was playing as a winger before because we had too many midfielders. And we had too many midfielders because we didn't sell the players that we already had. It's just all bad planning. All comes to the very same thing. All bad planning. Come on, Barcelona. All bad planning. Come on. Like, how difficult can it be? I can see it. Why can't you? I don't know. It's just awful. I'm gonna shut it off. I don't know what I'm even mentioning. Levante 2-1, respects Levante, amazing game. You are thrilling to watch. I love Levante. They play great football. Really, Paco Lopez. Barcelona, we need to fix some things, but the worst part is that you're not even gonna fix them because we all know that Barcelona are gonna win in the Camp Nou because that's how things work. That's how Valverde sees it. He only sees the, let's lose this game, but then let's win at the Camp Nou with Messi and all of that. When in reality, we should be winning this game and then resting the players in the other one. I just don't know, guys. I just don't know. I hate this. I hate when something like this, I just don't feel up to it. You know what the problems are. You know what the problems are. We all know what the problems are. So do we even have to mention him again? Because we know that they are not gonna be fixed.